Hello, welcome back to the channel, and you need to stop scrolling right now because brand new photos just dropped from Incheon International Airport, and the second they hit the internet, they completely broke the timeline. Picture this. Jimin, walking straight through the terminal in a simple striped sweater, jeans, a crossbody bag slung over his shoulder, completely casual, completely relaxed, flanked by fans and security on every side, with those unmistakable pink airport buses and Korean signage framing the whole scene behind him. And here's the moment everyone had been holding their breath for. The hair, still long, still blonde, fully intact, exactly the way fans had left it in their minds the last time they'd seen him. Because here's the thing, this wasn't just some ordinary airport photo. This was the entire group departing together, heading to New York for 2 massive nights at MetLife Stadium, one of the biggest stops on the entire world tour. And in the short, quiet gap between wrapping up the European leg and this New York departure, nobody had really seen Jimin in public at all. Nothing. Silence. And worst of all, in the eyes of this fandom, nobody could confirm whether his hair, his signature long blonde hair, the exact look this whole era has been built around, was even still there. So when he finally stepped back into view today, boarding for New York alongside the rest of the group, the internet did not stay quiet about it. Timelines exploded within minutes. Fans posted things like, and I'm quoting this exactly the way it trended, "Jimin's long blonde hair is still with US, thank you God. And Jimin's hair is getting longer. Hide all the scissors." That's the actual energy this fandom brought to a single airport sighting. And by the end of this video, you're going to completely understand why this small, simple moment turned into one of the biggest trending topics of the week. So let's get into exactly what happened, why this specific hair color has turned into this massive, ongoing saga for the fandom, and why a simple airport departure turned into a full-blown trending event within minutes. Let's start with the quick context you need, because it actually makes this whole hair panic make a lot more sense. BTS is in the middle of their massive Beyond the Horizon World Tour, the group's first full headlining run since before their military service, a tour that's already worked its way through Asia and Europe, and today marks the group heading out for the North American leg, specifically 2 back-to-back nights at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey this weekend. Once the European leg wrapped, the group scattered for a short break before regrouping for these New York shows, and that gap, the quiet stretch between one continent and the next, is exactly when Jimin went fully off the radar. On its own, that's completely normal. Idols take breaks between tour legs all the time, and nobody bats an eye at a short quiet period here and there before the next big run of shows. But this time, the silence dragged on just long enough, and the uncertainty around it sat there just heavily enough, that speculation started filling in every single gap. Was this just a normal rest period before New York? Or was there something else happening behind the scenes, maybe tied to a new stage concept, maybe tied to preparation for something we haven't even heard about yet? Something that might come with a surprise hair change attached to it the way tour refreshes sometimes do? Nobody had any real answers. And because nobody had any real answers, the worry just kept building day after day, across every single fan account, every single group chat, every single corner of the fandom that had learned, through past experience, to treat exactly this kind of silence as a warning sign. And honestly, when you trace back how we even got here, it makes a lot more sense why the stakes feel so high. Jimin's blonde era didn't start as some one-off styling choice for a single event. It's been building slowly and steadily into this whole identity over the better part of a year now, and if you actually lay out the timeline, it's kind of wild how consistent it's been. It first really caught fire back at the Moon Party in Seoul, where he showed up with that fresh blonde color for the first time in a long while. No beanie, no mask, just fully out in the open, letting everyone see it, right around the time he was easing back into public life after finishing his military service. From there, it just kept going. He showed up blonde heading to Paris for Dior's SS26 show at the end of September, turning an entire airport terminal into what fans openly started calling a runway, with headlines everywhere calling him things like the prettiest man alive, and photo sets that fans still circulate today as some of the best airport looks in the group's entire history. He showed up blonde again at Incheon heading out for BTS's first overseas schedule together as a full group after everyone's military service had wrapped up. An emotional milestone on its own that got even more attention because of the hair sitting right there in every single photo. He was blonde leaving for Lisbon in the middle of freezing sub-zero temperatures in February, wrapped up in a long coat, somehow still managing to look effortless. He was blonde on the cover of Vogue Korea in a collaboration with Dior, He was blonde, performing throughout the entire Arirang World Tour, city after city, stage after stage, captured over and over again by fan cameras and professional photographers alike, always with that same unmistakable look. And it didn't stop there either, because just a few months ago, in late June, Jimin was back at Incheon again, this time alongside Jeon, both of them heading out ahead of the group's European tour, and the two of them completely took over the airport with two totally different but equally eye-catching looks. Jeon went for a clean, coordinated denim-on-denim outfit, while Jimin leaned into a softer, edgier rock chic style, layered jewelry, a leather crossbody bag with a small sunflower charm hanging off it, the kind of small, specific detail that fans always seem to catch within seconds of a photo dropping. And barely a day or two after that, he was spotted at the airport again, this time on his way to Milan for another Dior show, dressed head to toe in the brand's spring-summer collection. A light blue knit top, tailored bootcut pants, a Dior belt, and that same signature crossbody bag, once again decorated with playful little charms. Every single one of these sightings, spread out across months, all carrying the exact same thread running through them, that unmistakable long blonde hair, tying every single appearance back to the same recognizable era. At this point, the blonde hasn't just been a look he wears sometimes. It's become part of how this entire era of Jimin's career gets visually remembered, almost like a chapter marker fans can point to and immediately know exactly which stretch of time they're talking about. And on top of that, there's a detail that makes this whole hair obsession even funnier and even more fitting when you think about it. Because Jimin is literally the face of a premium Korean hair care brand. He was named brand ambassador for Landor, a hair care line, which means the internet has spent months joking that his hair isn't just a personal style choice anymore. It's basically a walking advertisement, a living, breathing brand asset that fans have started treating with the same protectiveness a company might treat its own logo. So when fans say things like, "hide all the scissors," they're not just being dramatic for fun, even though it obviously sounds that way out of context. There's a very real layer underneath the joke. This hair represents an entire aesthetic identity at this point, tied to fashion campaigns, tied to a hair care partnership, tied to an entire year of iconic looks that fans have collected, screenshotted, and turned into edits, mood boards, and fan cams. Any hint that it might be gone genuinely rattles people, because in a strange way, it would feel like the closing of a whole chapter nobody was ready to close yet. So that's the emotional backdrop you need going into this latest scare, because when Jimin recently entered another one of his low-profile stretches, the kind where he steps back from public appearances and social media for a little while, the exact same nervous energy came right back, almost on autopilot at this point. Fans started speculating almost immediately. Was this just a normal quiet period? The kind every idol takes now and then to rest between schedules, recover from a packed touring calendar, or simply enjoy some time out of the spotlight? Or was there something else going on behind the scenes that might come with a surprise hair change attached to it, the way comebacks or new concepts sometimes do? And because nobody actually had any real information to go on, the uncertainty just sat there, day after day, building in the background the way these things always do in a fandom this large and this constantly online. People started posting, half joking and half genuinely anxious, begging for any kind of update, any sighting, any grainy photo from a fan account, anything at all that could confirm the blonde was still there. Timelines filled up with posts asking variations of the same question over and over. Has anyone seen him? Does anyone have an update? Please just let the hair be okay. This kind of collective, low-grade worry isn't actually unusual for this fandom either, and it's worth understanding why it spreads so fast. Whenever any member of this group steps out of public view for more than a few days, speculation tends to fill the silence almost instantly, simply because there's nothing else available to fill it with. Fans have gotten used to a fairly constant stream of updates, whether that's airport photos, event appearances, social media posts, or live streams, and any gap in that stream, even a short, completely normal one, tends to get treated as a mystery that needs solving. Combine that instinct with something as visually significant as an entire era-defining hair color, and you get exactly the kind of spiraling, half-joking, half-serious anxiety that took over timelines in the days leading up to these new photos. It's also worth mentioning that this isn't even the first time this exact worry has spiked across the fandom. If you go back through the timeline, you'll actually find this same cycle playing out more than once already this year. Back when Jimin kept a low profile for a stretch and then resurfaced with the blonde still intact, fans reacted with almost identical relief, posting things like, "He's back to his natural hair color? Blonde," and joking about whether other members were secretly responsible for keeping the dye job fresh behind the scenes. That moment trended too, for basically the exact same reason this one just did. Which tells you something important: this isn't a one-time overreaction. This is a recurring pattern at this point. A running joke and a genuine source of comfort that keeps resurfacing every single time Jimin steps back from the spotlight for more than a few days. Fans have essentially built an entire inside joke around it. One that gets revived, screenshotted, and reposted every single time history repeats itself. And then, finally, it happened. The photos everyone had been waiting for finally surfaced, and they spread everywhere almost instantly, retweeted and reposted at a pace that pushed his name straight to the very top of trending lists within minutes. Days of quiet, simmering worry across the entire fanbase evaporated in the space of a single photo set, replaced almost instantly by pure, chaotic celebration. The reaction, as you'd expect, was immediate and completely unhinged in the best possible way, and those two hashtags I mentioned at the very top were just the beginning. People were zooming in on every single photo, analyzing the exact shade against previous sightings, debating whether it looked slightly lighter or slightly longer than the last time he was photographed, cross-referencing it against Paris Fashion Week pictures and tour photos from just weeks earlier, the way only a fandom this deeply invested in every single visual detail of their favorite member could possibly do. Fan edits started popping up within the hour, stitching together a full highlight reel of every Blonde era appearance from the moon party all the way through to this exact airport sighting. Set to music, captioned with things like, "An era we will never recover from," and "The glow-up of the century." It became less like people simply reacting to a celebrity sighting and more like an entire community collectively exhaling in relief at the exact same moment, celebrating together the way you'd celebrate genuinely good news about someone you care about. And I think what makes this such a genuinely fun story to cover, beyond just how funny it is watching an entire fandom treat a hair color like a national emergency, is what it actually says about how attached people have become to this specific version of Jimin. Because let's be honest, idols change their hair color constantly. It's part of the job, part of every comeback, part of every new concept, part of the industry as a whole. Under normal circumstances, nobody would bat an eye if a member switched from blonde to black to some completely different color for a new era, and plenty of members across plenty of groups do exactly that multiple times a year without it becoming a whole saga. But this particular blonde has stopped feeling like just another temporary styling choice. It's become tied to this whole specific chapter of Jimin's career, the chapter right after military discharge, the chapter of walking red carpets as a Dior ambassador, the chapter of leading a hair care campaign that quite literally put his hair front and center as the product's entire selling point, the chapter of touring the world with Arirang, the chapter where he's been photographed at what feels like every major airport on the planet looking effortlessly put together every single time. The blonde has essentially become visual shorthand for this whole era, and that's exactly why the idea of losing it, even temporarily, hits fans harder than a simple styling change normally would. There's also something worth pointing out about just how quickly this whole cycle played out, because it really does tell you something about how these fandoms operate now in real time. A member goes quiet for a stretch. Speculation starts almost immediately, filling in the blanks with worry because there's no actual information available. That worry snowballs across social media, picking up momentum with every repost and every "does anyone know if" post, sometimes even spilling over into other language communities, translated and retranslated as it spreads. And then, the second any actual photo evidence surfaces, the entire mood flips instantly, from anxious uncertainty to full-blown celebration, all within the same news cycle, sometimes within the same hour. It's honestly a pretty fascinating little case study in how modern fandom operates, how much emotional energy gets built up around even the smallest details, and how fast that energy can completely reverse the moment new information drops. You could genuinely track the entire emotional arc of this fandom over the span of a single day just by scrolling through the timeline. Worry building through the morning, a photo dropping in the afternoon, and pure celebration taking over by evening. And it's not just the emotional attachment either, because this hair color has genuinely started translating into real commercial impact, which honestly makes the fandom's protectiveness feel a little less irrational and a little more understandable. Back in early February, when Jimin was photographed leaving Incheon for an overseas schedule in a long coat with that same blonde hair on full display, the outfit pieces he wore that day reportedly sold out almost immediately, with fans and outlets covering the story describing it as an instant viral sellout driven purely by the strength of that one airport look. Korean entertainment outlets have run headline after headline built entirely around his hair color specifically, calling him things like the prettiest today and turning ordinary departure photos into full spreads because of how much attention the visual alone commands. When even the airport staff greeting him are reportedly stopping to ask who dressed the prettiest that day, you start to understand why an entire fandom has built this level of emotional investment around a single hair color. It's not just nostalgia. It's tied to a very real, very visible cultural moment that keeps generating headlines every single time he steps outside. And then there's the Dior side of all of this, which arguably started the entire blonde era in the first place. Jimin has been closely associated with the fashion house as one of their global ambassadors, walking their shows, fronting their campaigns, and appearing on magazine covers built entirely around the partnership. The blonde hair has shown up consistently across nearly every single one of those appearances, to the point where fans and fashion outlets alike have started treating the color as inseparable from the entire Dior era of his career. Coverage from his appearance at the Dior Spring-Summer show in Paris specifically called out the blonde as part of what made the whole look land so hard, with one outlet describing the moment as something that would go down in the history books. When your hair color becomes part of how fashion journalists describe an entire red carpet moment, it stops being just personal style and starts being treated almost like a signature, the same way certain artists become associated with a particular color palette or aesthetic for years at a time. So when you stack all of that up together, the Dior campaigns, the Landor ambassadorship, the sold-out airport fits, the Vogue Korea cover, the entire visual identity of the Arirang World Tour, it makes a lot more sense why a simple low-profile period triggered this much collective anxiety across the fandom. This wasn't just fans being attached to a hairstyle for sentimental reasons. This was fans watching an entire visual era, one tied to fashion history, brand deals, viral sellouts, and some of the most iconic solo moments of his career so far, hang in the balance over a stretch of days with zero updates. No wonder the relief hit as hard as it did the second those Incheon photos finally surfaced. There's another layer worth mentioning too, because airport sightings like this one have become such a massive part of how this fandom stays connected to its members. Every single time a member is spotted departing or arriving at Incheon, it tends to draw genuinely large crowds, sometimes forming hours before the actual flight. Even parts of the fandom itself have pushed back on this at times, reminding each other that airports are public spaces, not fan meeting spots, and that overcrowding can put members at risk on what should just be a normal travel day. So there's always this quiet balancing act, the excitement of seeing a member again weighed against genuine awareness of the safety considerations involved. Now, let's break down exactly why this specific moment carried so much weight, stripping away the hashtags for a second. First, the timing. This came right after a run of major visual milestones, tour stops, fashion weeks, brand campaigns, all with the blonde hair as a constant thread. So any unusual silence felt like it was putting that visual continuity at risk. Second, the sheer scale of how identity-linked this color has become, tied to real brand partnerships and fashion history, meaning losing it would feel like closing an entire chapter fans have documented for almost a year. And third, simply how fast this fandom moves once uncertainty turns into confirmation, turning what could have been a forgettable airport photo into a full-blown trending event within minutes, purely through collective enthusiasm. And look, if you zoom out for a second, this entire saga is also just a really wholesome reminder of what this fandom actually looks like day to day, underneath all the chart wars and the awards show drama and the record-breaking numbers we usually end up talking about on this channel. At the end of the day, a huge part of what keeps this fandom going isn't just the massive headline moments. It's these smaller, almost silly, deeply human details, like genuinely caring what someone's hair looks like because it's tied to memories of watching them perform, watching them walk red carpets, watching them go through an entire chapter of their life and career. It's easy to laugh at "hide all the scissors" as an overreaction. And sure, it's definitely a little dramatic, but underneath that humor is just real, genuine affection for a specific version of someone fans have watched grow through a really meaningful stretch of his career. A version tied to freedom after years of mandatory service, to renewed confidence in front of cameras, to a level of comfort in his own skin that fans have been thrilled to watch unfold in real time. So where does this leave things now? Well, for the moment, the blonde is officially confirmed safe. Fans can relax, and the airport photos are already circulating everywhere as proof that this era isn't over yet. But more importantly, BTS is officially in the air. on their way to New York, gearing up for 2 massive nights at MetLife Stadium that are about to close out a huge chapter of this tour with an enormous amount of energy behind them. Whether the blonde stays this way through the New York shows, or whether a fresh concept eventually brings a completely different look, is obviously anyone's guess, because idols change their hair all the time and there's no telling what the next stretch of the tour might call for. But for right now, in this exact moment, ARMY got 2 things they've been waiting for at once: confirmation that the hair is safe, and confirmation that the group is finally landing in New York for one of the biggest weekends of the entire world tour. And if the last 24 hours proved anything, it's that this fandom will find a way to turn absolutely anything, even something as small as a hair color staying put, into a full-blown global celebration, complete with trending hashtags, viral edits, and enough excitement to make it feel like actual breaking news. That's the full story behind Jimin's blonde hair scare, and honestly, knowing this fandom, I don't think this is the last time we're going to be talking about this exact topic. Every single time he goes quiet for even a few days, I guarantee you this same cycle of worry and relief is going to play out all over again. And honestly, I'm here for it every single time because moments like this are exactly why this fandom is so much fun to cover. There's something genuinely charming about a global fan base this size, one that follows record-breaking world tours and headline-making award show controversies, still finding room to collectively lose their minds over something as simple as a hair color staying the same. It's silly, it's dramatic, and it's exactly the kind of thing that makes following this group so enjoyable, because underneath every big, chart-shattering headline, there's still this constant undercurrent of pure, unfiltered affection for the smallest details of who these members actually are. If this video kept you entertained, make sure you're subscribed, because there's a lot more Jimin content and BTS updates coming very soon, and I'll see you in the next video.